Okay, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Secrets of Role Mangging for our Call of Cthulhu campaign. Yep, it keeps going on, I know. There's plenty more to go. Plenty more to go. It actually, not in a negative way, but it feels like it's been going on longer than it has. This was our 10th session of the campaign. Which sounds like a low number, but yeah. Anyways, so okay, Cairo. Yes, things happen in Cairo. Not many things this session. It was a lot of dialogue, but there's some stuff that I'm going to talk about, and then we're going to go over to the board so I can talk about what's potentially coming next. So we introduced 3 new characters. It would have been 4 if Ziggy had made it, but 3 new characters. None of them are too crazy. I think Ronnie, the Demolitionist, is probably the craziest of the bunch, being a Demolitionist. But he hasn't blown anything up yet, so we'll see. The Demolitionist that I envisioned would have probably would have blown up. Shit, I don't even know what he would have blown. He would have blown up something that session. But that's me playing a Demolitionist, so I don't know. I guess it's kind of subdued. But, alright, let's see. Okay, Reggie. Yeah, Reggie. The guide. They went through both of the guides that the campaign actually advised. They went through Hakim and Mahmoud. Hakim, well, he died. Pretty certain he died. Mahmoud, okay. So, I think last time I teased that Mahmoud may come back at some point as like a sorcerer. Golk whispered him in the night. And so that I wasn't going to implement that this session. Maybe next session, depending on how quickly they go. I want him to be like an obstacle. And if Richard and Roland die before it becomes like an appropriate time, then I'll probably leave it out entirely because it wouldn't make much sense. Because then he's just like, because we had just a flush of new characters, so none of them would have met Mahmoud, so it'd just be kind of this random kid that knows magic. So it has to be one of them alive, probably Richard Blackstone. And so we'll see about that. But Reggie, I brought in as not like he's not a good guide. Like if they need to go somewhere, like the Egyptian Museum, you could have taken them there easily, but we kind of just hand waved it and just like, yeah, you go to the Egyptian Museum. Because they don't, it's not a big deal, but when they're going to like the Street of Scorpions, that's something that the players know that's not going to be easy to find. So then they need to get directions, and so then Reggie comes in and he's no good. So he's basically just a nuisance. They were very polite to him. I was shocked at how polite they were. They kind of humored him quite a bit. I imagine certain characters would have just verbally berated him and told him to just, fuck off or something. But no, they were very polite to good old Reggie, and that was great. So maybe he knew that they were being polite. Yeah, it's hard to say with Reggie. I don't think he'll see much more playtime. I doubt it. But you never know. I occasionally throw random NPCs around. So they get to the red door. And, oh, no, I forgot something from... God, yeah, this is how it is, right? I forgot something from the regular role-manging video that I didn't write down, I didn't mention. When they... At the end of the last session, when they were trying to find Jan Willen, and Reggie was getting them lost, and they couldn't. They were just like, it's getting late, it's getting late. On the way back, because I was feeling like they were ready to just tell Reggie off. He doesn't know where the hell he's going. They didn't respect this guy at all. I'm like, all right, I gotta show him what Reggie's got. And so, like, a beggar, like, jumped out at them with, like, a shiv. And Reggie's, Roland's like, oh, God, I've had enough of this. And Reggie's like, stand back, sir, I will take care of this vagabond. And he busts out his sword cane. And I didn't make that up. It says he's got a sword cane. I'm like, hell yeah, man, he's going to use that at some point. He busts out his sword cane, he just, like, he tells him off in Arabic. And the dude's just like, ah, and runs off. Yeah. Can never be, too easy on these rascals. So they were just like, yeah, Reggie. So he gained a little bit of respect, so he may see another appearance. Alright, but they get to the red door. And this was an interesting situation. I think I kind of discussed that. I was surprised at myself how much I kind of gave away in the regular role Mangging video. But yeah, I definitely expected a much more direct approach with this situation. But I guess mostly because that's what I would do. But they were very discreet with it. But they didn't really think it through, I guess. You need to think your plans through all the way. Because it's like, okay, I'll make a distraction, you guys sneak back there. Then what? Like, the guy, it's a small place. He's probably gonna, like, I was generous, but he could probably hear you talking to the guy in the room 10 feet away. So, like, it was a bad plan. You need to either knock this guy out or just, ask him directly, talk to him directly. Sneaking into this tiny little Egyptian home was just, to have a conversation with somebody. Yeah. This isn't like a consulate, where you can hide someplace. This is just a little filthy little place. So, yeah, I was generous to him, and it doesn't make a big deal. In the long run, it didn't make a big deal because this guy just didn't give a shit. But think the players didn't know that. The characters didn't know that. I could have easily made this guy a murderous member of the cult, or something that just, if he caught them back there, he just suddenly just stabbed them or something, or cast Fist of Yogg-Sothoth. You never know with me. I can be an asshole. So this time I followed the script, but I could have been worse. So I wouldn't take chances like that. Not in Call of Cthulhu. That's how you get characters killed. And so, Warren. I think I portrayed him in the session as much more stoned than he was supposed to be. And I think I only saved it because of how dramatic I made my performance in reading his speech. Because his actual speech as written is very clinical, I guess. It's not very eccentric. It doesn't really portray him as that insane for the most part. So when I read it in the role Mangging video, it probably didn't sound that crazy, but I think I astounded myself, as it were, with my performance. I think it kind of stuck with them a little bit more, that this guy experienced some shit. Now, the whole point of it was, and this is a problem, the whole point of it was, and I laid it on as thick as I possibly could, is the investigators are supposed to question this guy. Alright? Now, this is a problem with, a game in general and the metagame process and all that, where they hear this guy speaking, and they know I'm reading this off a piece of paper, and they know that everything he's saying is for real. This all happened. He experienced all this. This is not drugged illusions or anything like that. And so, if you heard this in real life, say you were a character such as, you know, Richard Blackstone or Roland or something like that. You were a character that you're a mobster, you sell liquor, and for some reason you get dragged into this investigation. You're not entirely sure why, but maybe there's some money involved. And suddenly you're speaking in a hookah lounge to this guy who's completely just stoned out of his mind. And he starts telling you that in the desert he saw skeletal sphinxes rising out of the sand and tearing people apart, and he starts crying about it. You're probably going to think he's completely freaking insane. But that's the nature of a game. There's no real mystery here, you know. There's no way that I can make these players believe that anything I'm telling them is not the truth. It's just how it is. So there's no real point, I guess, in the end of me doing kind of a performance. But I guess you have to just make some compromises. I could just read it to them. Well, I was out in the desert, and there were some sphinxes, and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, there has to be some fun to it, some role-playing to it, so I guess that's where we'll take it. So, I guess I'm just assuming that they all believe him completely. I'm just assuming all these things and, you know, the metagame and all that. Maybe some of the players don't quite believe him. But it's kind of like you're playing Call of Cthulhu. You know, like I've been kind of just casually talking about it since we started playing, that all the horrible shit that's out there and in the game, and you know, anybody that reads Lovecraft or anything, you know, has heard of it, you know how terrible it is. So kind of like the dream Call of Cthulhu campaign, I guess, is where none of the players know they're playing Call of Cthulhu. They're completely oblivious. Like, think about how awesome that would be. Like, where they just think they're playing, for whatever reason, a 1925 detective game. And it just, like, again, that's the dream, where they just slowly unravel this mystery. And then, when the horrific shit happens, they're like, what the fuck? You know, like a real impression. I think it's safe to say we'll never get anything like that here. It's kind of like where I wish we had like a Matrix thing, you know? Where we could all just like plug in and it would just be like how cartoons think MMOs are, you know? Where you're like really there and you can just, you know, you're part of this game. And the DM could just control every person on the planet, and it's all organic and real, and you're really there. I hope that, you know, these kind of games get to that at some point, because now it's still just up in the head. And so I guess there you could have something like that, I think. Where it's just like, we're going to play like a detective game, you know. It's set in 1925. And you're on your way to this hotel to meet your friend Jackson Elias. And just think how cool that would be to just go into this thinking you're just... yeah, I'm just fantasizing, I guess. But then I guess it would be kind of weird. It's like, oh yeah, here, let me show you Azathoth. Maybe it would actually drive you insane. That'd be pretty crazy. Somebody should make a movie of this. Anyways, I'm getting so far off track it hurts my brain. What was I talking... Oh, right, we're talking about Warren. Yeah, so, right. He told them the story. And, let me get my shit here. Let's talk about what he actually said to them. I'm pretty sure the only one that actually took notes was Richard. Or at least he was the only one that implied he was taking notes. If the others were taking notes, great. That's what you were supposed to do. But I can understand some players are not into taking notes because this isn't school, but it's part of the fun. Okay, so he told them that he was there at Dashur when they all went into the Bent Pyramid and vanished. And he said that he and Jack Brady just got drunk. And he told them that Jack Brady was a good guy. So, now he did not say anything that he did not know what happened to them in the Bent Pyramid. And that was part of the session, was them trying to discover what happened. What actually happened to them? Basically, what I said later on when Richard asked Nodens. And Nodens responded that the Black Pharaoh offered them all their hopes and dreams, and they accepted. That's basically what happened. In very, very short terms. I wonder if it says, like, comprehensively what happened. Let's see. Right. So, they basically got taken back to Egypt in dynastic times. They got thrown back into the past. For quite a while. And they all basically got completely fucked up in various ways. Hypatia probably got the rawest end of the deal because she's impregnated with Nyarlathotep's child, which is not something you want to have happen. Sir Aubrey's dream in life was to be a pharaoh, because he's kind of insane. So Nyarlathotep's like, sure, you can be a pharaoh. And so, I guess, if the plan comes, and if the plan succeeds, the Great Gates and all that, if that succeeds, Aubrey will be then taken back into time so he can be a pharaoh. So this was just like a little taste of what is to come, so that he will do the mission. Huston was then promised rule. He was promised. I know what I want to say, it's just the words aren't coming out. He was promised rulership of the earth in present time. I don't know how this works, since I'm pretty sure that if the plan actually succeeds, Earth would be wiped out by the old ones, or at least they would be in charge. But I think the whole idea is a bunch of these people are insane. So Huston's like, hell yeah, I'll rule the earth, sure. And Carlisle... Oh, here's what it says. So, Nyarlathotep intends to keep his promises. Hypatia shall have her child. That was the whole thing, was she couldn't have children. So all she wanted was a child. And Nyarlathotep's like, oh, I'll give you a child, baby. Yeah, he will. So, yeah. Sir Aubrey shall rule in ancient Egypt as a pharaoh, but as the terror-ridden toady of the ominous Black Pharaoh. So, not something you really want. Huston shall lord it over the earth, but after the gods return, all of humanity quickly becomes extinct. So, yeah, he doesn't get to rule for very long. And all Carlisle wanted was to be with Maweru, the African princess, but that Maweru doesn't really give a shit about Carlisle. She just gives a shit about Nyarlathotep. So, yeah, basically what happened was they went back to ancient Egypt, they hung out around there for a while. Apparently 20 years, as it's implied, I guess. Plenty of time to go insane. Well, it said that Penhu looked 20 years younger. I think Kafur said that. Somewhere. Well, it says physically he seemed younger. Somewhere it mentioned 20 years. I don't know where that was. But anyways, what was I talking about? Right, okay, we were talking about Warren. Yeah, so Well, we'll get to that point later. He told them about the Egyptian woman that visited him, and I had to do the idea roll because I was like, I'll give him this one. And so I doubt they'll actually... They might go out there to visit Niti. What do they actually find out there? Did I write... I don't think I even wrote that down. It's pretty inconsequential in the long run. Alright, actually, it's not inconsequential. As I reread it, it's actually pretty damn nice to have. Basically, okay. I'll go into a bit of backstory here. In the rulebook, if I can flip that open, what is that called? Eye of Lightning, okay. There's a spell, an incantation, known as the Eye of Light and Darkness. It's a very powerful ritual. In fact, it's probably the most powerful one in the game when it comes down to it, as far as the investigators are concerned. And so, it requires a large number of people. I would say, well, at least 25. But probably you want 100. So, quite a bit. And it all involves them chanting for quite a while. Hours. And, during the chant, it will leech power from them. Like the actual stat, power. 1d4 from everybody. And it needs 100 power to succeed, so 25 would be unfortunate. But you do what you have to do. And if it gets 100 power and this all succeeds, it imbues this sigil onto a physical object. And anything, it's like this, the effect of this sigil is like a 10-mile radius. But generally it has to be within like sight of it. It can go through some materials, but it's not going to go through a mountain, alright? And what this does, it's like the ultimate protection from anything bad about the mythos. Like anything. Like little guys, like a zombie. You remember the zombies from the Juju house? If it was in the sight line within 10 miles of this eye, just boom, disintegration. Okay. Something more serious like a fire vampire or a dimensional shambler, it might be able to hang out for like 10 seconds, but boom, disintegrated. I'm probably overstepping its power, but if they actually manage this is how powerful I would make it. Step it up to like a Shogoth or something, it might be able to combat within the range, but if it lingers around for a little while, yeah, it's going to get owned. How far up does it go? I'll say that Nyarlathotep would probably not want to hang out around there. And so, it's never going to kill him. So, if for some reason a player of mine is watching this video and he's like, oh my god, I can kill Gulk, yes. No, you're not. It's a cute idea, but no. Because you're probably asking, like, okay, if Nyarlathotep is there and he doesn't like it, why wouldn't he just blast it, you know? Or blast the rock that it's on, or whatever. You're exactly right. The idea is you hide it from him. But it's like, he's omniscient, so, yeah. this really isn't much used against the actual gods, but against anything else, yeah, it's very useful to have. So, this eye was actually placed on one of the pyramids in Egypt. It was already there. I think the Red Pyramid, which is right next... yeah. Okay. The Red Pyramid, originally faced with pinkish limestone, bore a protective ward for the Dashur area, but Roger Carlyle destroyed its power by breaking its ward. So, yeah, the Red Pyramid was there just to protect everything else, but that's why they brought Carlyle, I guess. I don't know. So, after he broke the ward, the sigil itself broke into 2 fragments. One of which is in Niti's home in El Wasta. The other half is in Jack Brady's hands. So this is like a massive quest, you know. If they actually were hell-bent on doing this, you know. If they get this, if they get the fragment in El Wasta, and they take it to like Dr. Kafur, and he could identify it. He's like, yes, I believe this is part of a sigil of great protection. But you'd have to find probably the other half. And from then on, every single character just wrote in their notebooks or something, and it was like, if I die, if anybody finds the other half of this sigil, bring the 2 together and take them to, you know, Dr. Kafur in Cairo. You know, if they do that, it would be pretty epic, I gotta say. You know, I obviously want to win, but it would be pretty epic. On a completely separate note, as I tend to do, they're still in a very micro time scale for this entire campaign. A month and a half has passed since we started, which I guess is not insignificant, but like the thought, the very idea of them taking like a few days off is just sacrilegious to them. They cannot fathom it. Like not Charlie. Richard took the couple days to learn the spells. And he's like, don't let me hold up the investigation. You guys go on while I do this. And I'm just like, you really can't spare just 2 days to just kick around. And there was, because you know, everything is just hour by hour. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? It's never like take a week off. Because I guess the biggest incentive for taking time off is to recover. But generally nobody is in a recovering mood. They're either alive or dead. So a big thing of the entire campaign is time, dates, which is why every single new day I make sure to tell them the month, day, year, and day of the week. Which that might be part of the problem. They think because I'm saying every single individual day, rather than just saying, I don't know, it's like a Tuesday. But I have to keep track myself no matter what, so I don't know. But the point is, the big final culmination of everything in this campaign is January 16th, 1926. So we have to pass enough time to get there. At some point there may be a TPK. If there is a TPK, I will jump time forward. Just for my own purposes. But I don't want there to be a TPK, so we'll see. Time may pass on its own anyways. You never know. But if we go day by day, this is going to be a long campaign. Of course, they can foil all the plans before that date, so I guess this campaign may end in, May. But we'll see. Where was I? Yes. El Niti, or Niti, So he went out and to Medium, which is the collapsed pyramid. The collapsed pyramid. What the hell is at the collapsed pyramid? There's not much. he saw the Black Sphinx rise. So he saw the Black Sphinx, which is another mask of Nyarlathotep, which will come into play later. And so he saw that, which is terrible. He saw a ritual. They summoned the Black Sphinx. They do that from time to time. This was not like a huge special ritual, but it was an occasional ritual that the Brotherhood does. And he unfortunately got to witness it. And so if they go to the collapsed pyramid at some point, it's likely, which means for me 100% certain, that they'll probably be attacked by cultists, because they're snooping around where they should not be. So, probably that would only incentivize them. They're like, there's something here at the collapsed pyramid, man. They're protecting it. There's nothing there. No. The only thing in that area in Dashur is the bent pyramid. That's all that matters. But okay. Something more loomed out of the sand, the size of an elephant, but with 5 separate shaggy heads. I don't know what that is. I actually don't know, because that's not the description of the Black Sphinx. At least, I don't think so. Oh, it is, actually. From Lovecraft himself, from his description in Under the Pyramids. It was as large, perhaps, as a good-sized hippopotamus, but very curiously shaped. It seemed to have no neck, but 5 separate heads springing in a row from a rough cylindrical trunk. So yeah, that's the Black Sphinx. Okay, it's 5 separate heads. Yeah, that's pretty much it, for the most part. So, in the end, I'm not really sure how much great information here. The only important thing they need to know is the bent pyramid. They have to go there. That was the whole point of Warren's statement. Everything else was kind of insane, because there's nothing at the collapsed pyramid. There's the bent pyramid, and there's the Sphinx at Giza, which is not the collapsed pyramid. We gotta move on, otherwise this is gonna be a very long video. Okay, blah, 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 the Mosque of Ibn Tulun. Yeah, they could have potentially gotten in to see like the actual situation with the girdle and like the protection that's going on there, but Richard's he critically failed his credit rating, so it just wasn't gonna happen. But the guy trusted him enough to tell him some basic information. But if they don't go back to the mosque and take care of things there, the girdle will be stolen. It will happen. If they don't do anything about it, it will be stolen. I assure you. Like, that's what it says. Where did it say this? If the investigators do not take or destroy the girdle, several days later they read in any Middle Eastern venue the news clipping that implies the theft of the girdle. And basically, like, I think it's like the whole mosque just gets fucked up. Where is that news clipping? It's number 32. Why would it not be here? Oh, here. Tragedy at the Mosque of Tulun. Six of the scholars died. There's a collapse of the ceiling in their study room. Ahmed Zahavi survived, but was taken to hospital in shock. Oh, the collapse occurred in a building adjacent to Ibn Tulun itself. The historic structure is undamaged. So, yeah, the girdle is held in a underground area beneath a separate building. It's not even in the mosque. So, yeah. Chances are they're not going to do anything about it. I think they got too much on their mind to worry about it. But, yeah, it's going to be stolen. Which is bad for them. Because once it's stolen, hopefully it should click that, oh shit, now they can resurrect this thing. We better figure this out. And yeah, they better figure it out. Because if the resurrection happens, it's of course talked about here. It's not good. Needle Chris is pretty powerful. Reasonably so. Like, she could still be headshot, but yeah, it's not something they want to have happen. Okay, okay, that was the mosque, blah, blah, blah. Kafur, Dr. Kafur. Wealth of information, as I knew he would be. They didn't ask all the pertinent questions, but they got most of the information they needed. And he's a powerful ally for them to have. They're going to want to keep him around. They're going to want to make sure nothing bad happens to him, because he's read the Necronomicon, man. The Necronomicon is the holy grail of Mythos tomes. All knowledge you want is in that book. So I'm very surprised none of them asked to see it. Either they assumed he wouldn't give it to him, which is, I mean, that's not the likely reason, but I think more likely they're afraid of Mythos tomes. I mean, yeah, there's a sanity cost and everything in a Cthulhu Mythos, but it tells pretty much everything. And Call of Cthulhu DMing tip number 1 is never let your players have access to the Necronomicon. So, I probably would never let them have access to it. If they made a pact with CoC to get it, maybe they might be able to read sections of it under Kafur's surveillance or something. But yeah. Okay, so the spells that Richard learned. I handpicked these. Obviously, this is not something that's really discussed in the book. Okay, so you learned Shriveling, which is the Destroy Physicality, as we already know. So that's a common spell. Like, anybody knows anything about spells is going to know Shriveling. So that's fine. The other one was... What was that one I taught him? So I always leaf through this book. It was something kind of cool, wasn't it? Oh, Voice of Ra. Yeah, this is just I just started from the back of the list and I just kept leafing through and I was like, Voice of Ra. Charlie Chalk would have loved that. So we're gonna see how Richard Blackstone likes it. I'll tell you what it does now. Okay, so it requires 5 magic points and 1 sanity, not much. Takes 2 hours to complete. And for 24 hours, the spell adds 1d10 appearance and increases bargain, credit rating, fast talk, persuade, and psychology by 20%. So if you plan on doing any talking, it's a very handy spell to have because it's got pretty much no drawbacks. 1 sanity for 24 hours. Awesome. So yeah, that can be pretty damn useful. And then Healing. That was actually not the original one I was going to... Like, I leafed through it once, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll go with this one. And then by the time the actual spell... Like, when I told him what spells it was, I forgot which one it was. So, I had to give him Healing, because I suddenly saw that. The actual one I was going to give him was... I have to find it now. It was a cool one, trust me. What the hell was that called? I may not find it. I know what it did, I just may not find it in here. Probably not. It's really inconsequential because it's not what he knows anymore, but... Oh! Parting Sands. Yeah, I was going to give him this one because it's an actual Egyptian sorcery, as it says. Costs 2 magic points and 0/1d4 sanity. And it costs potentially more magic points depending on what you want to do. But it parts non-living obstacles. So it says, like, one could use this spell to part the Red Sea, but that would take a lot of magic points. I love that implication. It's like, yeah, maybe Moses cast this spell. That's very funny. But, yeah, so it basically just splits open any obstacle. Walls, doors, rivers, whatever you want. It will divide it. And I thought, for one, that's Egyptian. It's an Egyptian sorcery, so it made a lot of sense. But I think it would be really cool if anybody makes an Egyptian sorcerer for their character. I'll probably give them this one because it just seems really interesting applications. In a D&D game, that'd be crazy. In any game, it'd be crazy. Just so yeah, he didn't get to know that, but healing's fine. It's very boring, but okay. Alright, so I think that's that for as far as the session. So I think we're going to go over to the board now to talk about what's going to potentially happen next session. So let's go. Alright, so I didn't add a tremendous amount to the board. I pretty much erased all the London shit and put in this little bit here. This all stayed. Some of it is irrelevant now, but it's fine. Okay, so let's see here. They dealt with Faraz Najir, so we can kind of just erase all that. Warren is pretty much done. I don't think they'll be talking to him anymore. The guides, they're done with that. Omar Shakti, will they ever meet him? It's kind of unlikely. Well, I mean, he'll be at kind of the final events of the section, but will they ever meet him at his plantation? Only if I really want it to happen. So the question is, for a lot of things in this campaign, is how does it affect the flow of the campaign as it currently is? And I don't know if there's really any need for them to see him. They don't get any information out of him, really. Unless they break into his home and go into his safe, but this does not seem like the type of group that will. And likely he's just there to kind of kill him off if I feel peckish, so I don't think I will. The Cairo Bulletin. I laid some hints about newspapers. They did not take up on it. So, yeah, chances are they'll never come across that. Again, unless it's up to me to just be like, one of the characters is like, hey, there's the Cairo Bulletin, they might have some information there. I could. I guess it's a question of how much do you hand to the players and how much do you expect them to hand it to you. I don't know. The Black Cat with Jan Willen, I could have expanded that section, but it's fine. Pretty much all that is still the same. He's going to be like John Candy. I'm already practicing my impression. It's going to be good. He's going to be just a pain in their asses. And it's pretty much mostly just a side story. They don't really need to find this guy, and they probably don't want to, but they will, and they'll get involved in this Black Rites, probably because they'll think it's important. He can be of some use in getting them into the Clive expedition site, but that's about it. The Egyptian Museum with Kafur, they pretty much did all of that. Okay, so the Clive expedition, as we have heard many a time now. They are at a dig site at Memphis, and now my question is, I know so little about Egypt. It's kind of pathetic. Like, you really should do a lot of actual research when you're running this campaign, but I'm lazy. Okay, so I see Giza here. Okay. So the Giza pyramid is right next to Memphis. But the Giza pyramids are not at Memphis, it's just nearby. I could show you a little, they provide a nice little map here, but... Okay, so Dashur is south of Memphis. Memphis is pretty much just like ruins, really. So Dashur is where the bent pyramid is, the collapsed pyramid, red pyramid. So north of that is Memphis, which is ruins. And then like northwest of that is the Giza pyramids. Okay, so they're at the ruins of Memphis. And it's a very well guarded area. The book says basically like all it's missing is landmines and machine guns or something. So it's pretty damn well guarded. And all the workers there, apart from a lot of people there are cultists working for Omar Shakti. And they won't really let anybody wander in. They'll be meted like at the entrance by Martin Winfield. I have 2 notes here written for Martin Winfield. One is asshole, the other is cultist. So he's not likely to be a well-liked guy. In fact, as soon as they meet him, everybody has to make a psychology roll. If they fail the roll, it means they just instinctively hate him. If they succeed the roll, it means they instinctively hate him, but they know it's because he's a sadistic brute. So no matter what, it's just going to be like, you fucking hate this guy. And he looks just like an asshole with his little picture here. And yeah, he's a cultist. And he's a sadist. So he's just not really a good person. And so he'll be meeting them at the front entrance. And he's going to be a complete dick about things. So they're going to have pretty good way of getting into the place. As much as I hate to say it, this is probably where they'll attempt stealth into the place. Potentially. It's better if they don't, but we'll see. Because they're not a team of, they're not a crack squad of stealth, solid snakes or anything. But Jan Willen could potentially get them in. Kafur might be able to get them in. There's a few various ways they might be able to get in. And so the main guy here is Dr. Henry Clive. He is a huge cultist. He's been a cultist for like 35 years. He's also completely insane, as most cultists tend to be. And so he's obviously, he knows some spells. He's definitely part of this whole thing. He's not just a low-ranking guy. And so he's working with Omar Shakti and Nyarlathotep to kind of do this whole Needle Chris thing. This is very important. I'm not entirely sure why. Like, even now, I'm not sure why Needle Chris is so important. Let me check this section here. It's gotta be important. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, her goal, which may take generations, is to basically control humanity. But you're planning on opening up the gates next year to the old... I don't know how it works. So, bottom line is Nidochris in the book doesn't have much purpose. So I would probably change that. If they bungle it up enough, Nidochris is going to be way more powerful than it says here, and she's also going to be hell-bent on ending this investigation. So that's what I'm going to say. So Clive found in the ruins at Memphis actually no. What the fuck are they doing at Memphis? It doesn't make any sense. Because they made their discoveries at Giza. I guess it's pretty close. But whatever. Okay, so what happened was they went into the smallest pyramid at Giza, which is Menhara's. And they found some scrolls that identified the remains present there as Nidochris and told the full story and everything. Very, like, if the Egyptian community found out of this would be gigantic. So he took those and he gave those to Omar, because they want to keep this on the down low. And he replaced those scrolls with just fake, shitty scrolls, which were illegible. And so everybody was like, oh, they found, not much. But they found these remains. They found a mummy in the chamber. And so this is the mummy of Nidochris. But they say then that the mummy was stolen. It vanished, along with like a couple guards or something that were watching it. Just vanished. And so that's the story they're peddling all over the place to the news and everything, is their mummy was stolen, and they're all worried that this is going to affect them. But really, Dr. Henry just knows that this is Nidochris and they want to resurrect it. So they moved this to a secret chamber we'll talk about later. So Henry Clive will just spew them bullshit all day, all night. They might suspect he's a cultist, they might not. That's just the fun of it. We'll see. Martin Winfield is working with Clive. He's a cultist. He's an asshole. We discussed this. Agatha Broadmoor. She is a psychic. She's a psychic medium. She's not a cultist, but she is very important to them. This is one of those very subtle things which requires the player's ingenuity. Agatha is required by the cult to resurrect Nidochris. She is the only one that they know of that can do this ritual. That they're going to force her to do it, but she's the only one they know that can do it, to resurrect Nidochris. If she dies, this resurrection doesn't happen. So that is not going to be really implied at any point. It's going to be very, just as far as me DMing, it's going to be very secretive. If they come up with this idea that if she dies, it foils everything, great. They still have to kill her or something, which is not easy. She's a nice old lady. The thing is, I have an inkling suspicion, very small, that maybe perhaps one player is getting some information from these Secrets of Roll Mangging videos. I won't say who, and it's still pretty unfounded. It's just kind of a thing I've been observing over a while. So if this one player suddenly decides to say that perhaps killing Agatha may foil the plans, that's a big clue to me. Chances are, if they do watch the videos, they'll then know that I said that, and they won't suggest it, but then, fine, you don't get that advantage this time. Again, this is all pretty unfounded, I'm just saying. Okay, so James Gardner is an archaeologist. He's not a cultist. He has very little purpose here. His only real purpose is to suggest that there is perhaps like a labyrinth of tunnels underneath the Sphinx, And he thinks that there's like a secret passage to get down there. But he told that to the cops, and the cops have been looking for it for a long time. They haven't found anything. So they probably think he's full of bullshit. Incidentally, he's not full of bullshit. And then finally, Johannes Spreck, who is the most useless of all these. He's not a cultist. He's a German occultist guy, so he knows a bunch of stuff. Not anything like, Kafur or whatever, but for some reason, Nyarlathotep wants him alive. Or like the minions of Nyarlathotep have plans for the National Socialists, so they'll keep Spreck alive if at all possible. And there's a 5% chance that Nyarlathotep might resurrect him once. I don't know why, but okay, he's very expendable in my mind. Okay, so that's the actual expedition members. Okay, so what's going on here really? Underneath the Sphinx and the pyramids at Giza, there is a massive labyrinth of tunnels. You can see it right here. Okay? Big labyrinth. And in the center of that whole mess is a grand sanctum, the great chamber of Nyarlathotep, which is 400 by 500 feet. It's very big. And so, what the Brotherhood plans to do is they moved the mummy down to this chamber through magic. And there is a ritual that can be done. It must be done by Agatha Broadmoor, and it requires the 3 artifacts of Nitocris: the crown, the necklace, and the girdle. They have 2 of the 3, they need the girdle. Once they get all these together, there will be a great ritual. Okay? Present at this ritual in the Great Chamber will be 12 priests, including Omar Shakti, 800 cultists, 100 children of the Sphinx, which I'll talk about in a second, and the rest of the Clive expedition will also be there as just screaming sacrifices. And so they'll force Agatha to contact the spirit of Nitocris, and they'll throw a bunch of hundred victims to this giant leech pit that they built. So they're just gonna have like drained corpses just thrown in there, and so then once the spirit is summoned, they will slice open the throats of both Gardner and Broadmoor, because they're evil, or they're good, I guess. They're not cultists. They keep Johannes alive because, I don't know, he's so lucky, I don't get it. But okay. And so their blood then drains down, and Nitocris resurrects in physical form. And then her first action is to drink a goblet of fresh blood, and then she contacts the Black Sphinx, who emerges from behind. The whole ritual of that costs 1d6/1d20 sanity. Okay, seeing the Black Sphinx costs 1d10/1d100 sanity. So, yeah, this is rough. Now, obviously the main goal of this is to foil the resurrection of Nitocris. As far as this is concerned, I think you could give jack shit about it. Her important, like, she's not that important. I don't get it. It has nothing to do with any of the Great Gate or anything. It's very inconsequential. But I'm running this shit, and I say it's very important that they do it, because otherwise they're going to have a very powerful enemy. How do they foil it? I'm not going to say. There are various ways, and I'm not going to tell you. Because I don't know. I'm just going to leave surprises out there. For whatever reason. I already told you one way. So the Agatha way, which is unfortunate. Because they will lose a bunch of sanity if they do kill her. But if they do foil this resurrection, they will all gain a bunch of sanity. I mean a bunch. I don't often gain it, but this is a huge blow to the Mythos forces. So, yes, I would give them a bunch. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I'm going to say. Oh, the children of the Sphinx. This is what they look like, or a couple of them. That's what they look like. So they kind of got weird heads, and they got naked bodies, and it's kind of graphic. And I just made this like a not safe for work channel. But, yeah. So they're just basically inhuman humanoids. And they're much, much more powerful than... well, not much, much. They're more powerful than a human. And they'll kill you. Oh, they'll kill you. Because, like I said, there's like 100 of them, you know. And while they're wandering around this labyrinth, there's going to be a bunch of encounters. Like, no shit. It's the only random encounter chart in the whole campaign. And so I get to roll on that for what happens to them. Most of these are not too bad. Some of them are just pretty lame, like they just trip and fall. But some of them cost sanity, some of them get them more lost, and some of them children of the Sphinx appear to try to grab them. And if they get captured by the children of the Sphinx, they get taken to the Great Chamber of Nyarlathotep. They may be sacrificed. So, yeah. Okay, last thing then I want to talk about is the Bent Pyramid. But the Great Chamber of Nyarlathotep, the ritual and all the resurrection, that's kind of the big event, I guess. It's the most epic thing, but as far as the campaign is written, it's, like I said, kind of inconsequential. The Bent Pyramid encounter is... it's also inconsequential. Egypt in general is not that important in this book, but I find the Bent Pyramid thing much more interesting as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so they're going to go to the Bent Pyramid. There's no question about it at this point. They're going there. And they're going to find two entrances, hopefully. There's the northern entrance, which has a couple guards there. These guys are real just chatty folks. You know, like they got the just boring ass shit jobs. They're just kind of smoking out there, and they'll shoot the breeze. And if they're nice, they'll let them in to the pyramid. One of them will go with them to make sure they don't damage anything. And they'll go into a bare, poorly painted chamber of no interest. Yeah. So I'm just loving the idea of having described this room in just excruciatingly boring detail. Yeah, but I look around like all the way. I'm gonna roll spot hidden, all right? Like, yeah, roll spot hidden. There's nothing fucking there. All right. Now there's a western entrance, and this is basically unguarded, but it's barricaded by wooden boards. And if they get through there, they'll go into another chamber, and this one they have to basically get a luck roll to find a secret passage. They go into the secret passage and they enter Nyarlathotep's sanctum. This is like his worldly throne, I guess. Or at least the Black Pharaoh's worldly throne. There's a bunch of details about what's in it here. I'll just give the main points. On one wall there's a bunch of glyphs, symbols, that foretell the birth of a child of Nyarlathotep. This would be Hypatia Master's child. It says here that the date for this event is vague, and you should choose it in accord with the general progress of the investigators. So basically, I get to pick the date of this event. So they do that so it's not just like... so it's not just, well, it's February 27th, I hope you're there, you know. Or it's not September 17th, so it's like, alright, well, we got plenty of time. So you want to choose it so there's some urgency to it. Because I think it mentions the Mountain of the Black Wind. Yes, it mentions the Mountain of the Black Wind. So there should be some urgency to it. It's like, we need to find the Mountain of the Black Wind before this happens. So I like that. I like that I get to put some urgency into their step as far as time goes. So there's that. There's an astronomy chart. There's like a star map. And it shows if they roll astronomy. Nobody has rolled astronomy. I don't think anybody's put any points into it. So I imagine they're going to see this. They're going to like, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. I don't have any astronomy. And then some character is going to die, and they're going to come in and be like, I'm an astronomer. Like, dude, I got just the thing to show you. So we'll see. I doubt they'll get this information, but they might. It's actually very important. Basically, if they roll... They have to succeed on both an astronomy and an occult roll. I think so. Well, it says, can be understood by successful astronomy and occult rolls. So that might mean you can roll either one. I might give that to them for this one. I might let them roll occult. Just because I know none of them have astronomy. So I might be generous there. But basically it shows that the next planetary alignment of a bunch of series of stars and whatnot will occur on January 14th, 1926. And this is, of course, the date when the planned Great Gate opens. But I want them to, as soon as, like, this is a first, like, date in the future, like, this, they'll know this is important. So I'm hoping that they'll all be writing this down. And they're like, okay, we need to figure out what the hell this means before January 16th. So I like that. I like that the Sanctum gives dates. Yeah, but I think Bent Pyramid is more important than that. So it's good that they're going there. And there's also a map of the Eastern Hemisphere. And it's kind of a rough map. It doesn't show any towns or anything like that because this was made quite a while ago. But it has like 3 rubies that mark points on the map. One is in the East China Sea, one is in central Kenya, and one is in Western Australia. And it's another thing where it's like, what the hell does this mean, you know? And it also says, an inlaid ebony band marks an arc crossing the Indian Ocean. An arc identical to the arc of totality for the solar eclipse of January 14th, 1926. I said 16th, it's 14th. I think that's like an idea roll, if they figure out that means there's a solar eclipse there. Yeah, so there's a lot of info there. Very useful. The final thing is the meeting with the Black Pharaoh. Yes. While they're hanging out and around there, if they hang around there for long enough, which long enough is exactly how long they hang out there, a bunch of like gems that are sitting in like braziers or whatever light up. And the Black Pharaoh appears on the throne in the room. And they will have a conversation. This is I can't say it's important, but it's monumental. Like this is a big deal in the campaign because it's the only time they ever actually get to speak to Nyarlathotep. As far as the campaign's written, obviously I have Golk, which is, yeah. But, so yeah, they get to speak to him. And it gives guidelines for like how this conversation should go, and what happens if they try to attack him, or anything like that. It's like one of the big guidelines it says is he like shows them like a vision of what happened to the Carlisle expedition. And it's all bullshit because all the members are still alive. But it shows them just being torn apart horribly by horrific creatures. And seeing that vision costs 1d10/1d100 sanity. So you don't do that, you know. I'm not planning to open with that, as it were. That's if That's if they're real dicks about things. And so the whole point is to kind of be like, if they withstand it, I guess, is to be like, the Carlisle Expedition were slaughtered? What? So, ignoring that, though, what is my take on this conversation going to be? I've created a complicated scenario here. CoC will probably be present, which is hilarious, but because the metagame is going to be like, I thought CoC was, why, what the hell is this, you know? Obviously he can just be both, whatever, who cares? But okay, so Nyarlathotep, I said, was a combination of Satan and Loki. He's very bored out of his mind. He's lived, you know, eons and eons, so he just likes to have fun here. Which is a somewhat whimsical take, I guess, on the mythos, but it's still kind of horrific, so it's okay. So he's got his main form here, CoC. He loves being CoC. He loves just this complete, like, almost betrayal of personality here. So he likes being CoC, but he also has these more serious things. And if I were writing this campaign, I probably wouldn't have these serious things, because it just doesn't make much sense to me as far as how I'm running things. Why does he care about being the Black Pharaoh and commanding people to open the Great Gate and yeah. But as far as when he's in these different forms, he's going to act like how he, you know, should act. So when he's in the Black Pharaoh and he's talking as him, it's going to be all business, man. There's not going to be any jokes, not going to be any tricks, anything like that. He's going to be fucking busy. He's going to tell him he's here to end your fucking world, all right? So it's going to be very serious. If they provoke him, okay, I don't think this is going to happen. If they're collectively dicks, they'll probably get the vision. If one of them is antagonistic, he'll probably just... if you saw Watchmen at the end, I'm spoiling it, where Dr. Manhattan just, like, you know, popped Rorschach, probably would be like that. He'd be like, oh, that's nice, and whoosh, and just blood just whoosh, everywhere. Yeah, that's probably what would happen if one of them was kind of an asshole, but I doubt that. They're going to know who they're talking to. So then, information. That's probably what they're going to want out of this. The Black Pharaoh is going to be like, you know, you are thorns in my side, I guess. Explain to me why I shouldn't just kill you now. So it's going to be, they're probably going to be, I want to say scared, but that's not really what it's going to be. Curious, I guess. Yeah, I'm probably going to let them ask questions, but it's going to be like, how can we trust this guy, this god? Since they know now that the Black Pharaoh is Nyarlathotep, they know that Nyarlathotep is not really to be trusted, so how can they trust him? They can't. He's likely going to lie to them. But maybe he won't. Maybe he'll tell them that it's, you know, if you lie to them completely, they're going to assume it's all lies. But if you give them some truth, they're going to assume the truth is lies. Oh, that's some Frederick Zoller shit right there. So, yeah, that's most what I'm looking forward to out of this whole Cairo section, Egypt section, is the meeting with the Black Pharaoh. And they occasionally tend to just push CoC aside, where they don't think that he's really there. They forget about him, because I don't want him to be in the forefront, so I just kind of just let him sit in the shadows. So I'm curious on what they'll have, if they'll speak to CoC during this. Like, CoC, what do you think of this Black Pharaoh? Like, oh, he seems scary. I don't know, we'll see. So yeah, that's pretty much it as far as Egypt goes. In the end, it's not the most inconsequential section, but we're building up to it. New York is pretty much nothing. New York is just, here's a bunch of leads, go out in the world and follow them. London is like, okay, this is getting a little bit bigger than we thought, you know, there's perhaps more powerful forces involved than we assumed. Egypt is like, okay, holy shit, this may be beyond us. There's giant sphinxes and weird children of the sphinx, and oh my god, the Black Pharaoh, what is going on? And then they get to Kenya where it's like, okay, we may be able to save the world, or we may die horribly over and over and over. And Australia and China are... Yeah. The campaign can kind of end at Cairo if things go perfectly, but I'll probably nudge them in the other directions. We'll see. But yeah, it's a cool section. I like the Egypt section. There's plenty of interesting, fun characters. I'm just really excited for them to meet Jan Willen. Oh, it's gonna be great. Okay. So yeah, I think that's about it then. Yeah, halfway through this book. Just about. This is where we are, basically. That's the end of the Egypt section. So, it's a decently long campaign. But it is fantastic. The only thing I didn't talk about really was the Brotherhood. Like, what are they doing? Like, in New York, they were constantly being dogged. In London, they were somewhat being dogged. And here, it's like they're not even there. It's a flow thing again, you know. It's like, I don't want them to be constantly paranoid, because then everything takes longer. Omar Shakti knows about the guys. And, their number, he knows what happened to Reginald Steinway, and so he's curious about that. But again, he knows what Gavigan knows, that these are somehow related to Nyarlathotep's plans. So he's still kind of staying aside. But if they took the girdle, or say, like, if they stole it for their own protection or something like that, yeah, he'd be like, all right, no, all bets are off. Come on, Brett. And so he would send him after that. So until they directly antagonize anything, they're okay. But they're about to antagonize things, I'm pretty sure. So yeah. Alright, that's enough talking for me. So, my name is Mang. This has been Secrets of Role Manging for Masks of Nyarlathotep. I'll see you fine folks in 2 weeks.